Hi, this is Dee at Aloha Astro, and today we're looking at a new moon in Virgo, which actually occurred at 4:17 a.m. Eastern Time on August 27th, 2022, and it was at 4 degrees 4 minutes of the mutable Earth sign of Virgo. Let's take a look at the forecast for this new moon. New moon in Virgo, Saturday, August 27th, highlights making plans, seeking connections, and taking actions centered around the mundane but necessary steps that will lead to your future success, as the moon joins the sun in Virgo, and together they form a square aspect with Mars in Gemini. Virgo is the mutable Mercury-ruled earth sign associated with the 6th house of service to others, the daily job, health, exercise, diet, nutrition, how you use your body, and the daily chores and purposeful tasks you do, which enable you to meet your physical needs. Because Mercury rules Virgo, pragmatic discernment and the ability to observe, analyze, sort, prioritize, and utilize is the superpower this new moon brings you. Virgo determines the who, what, when, why, where, and how of solving a problem or moving a project forward. The new moon in Virgo at the close of the month signals the beginning of the harvest time of the late summer and early fall, and the preparation required to endure the long months of winter. You may not have to put up food and chop wood in the weeks ahead, but it is a good time to look at your health, living situation, or work which sustains you, with a critical eye to determine what you can do to improve things. Nothing is ever quite perfect, and there is always room for improvement under the influence of a Virgo lunar transit. But the means to make things better is usually found when sought. The seeking of alternative ways to make something more perfect or to bring a dream into real time through the help of others is present now through a grand trine aspect pattern involving Mars in Gemini, Mercury in Libra, and Pluto in Capricorn. Oops, I dropped an R there. Mars sextile to Jupiter in Aries, while Jupiter opposes Mercury, makes you aware that although you might not always be in agreement with others, you still need other people. The modesty, humility, and good manners brought by the Virgo new moon may make it easier for people to get along with each other for the next 2 weeks if solving a problem or reaching a goal takes priority over differences in personality or tastes. So let's take a look at what we have going on in the sky, and things are quite busy. Here's the grand trine. We recently had a kite aspect pattern as well, which is now broken apart, but shades of it still remain. We've got a T-square going on as well, and I did not mention that in the forecast because of the constraints of space and number of characters I can use in social media posts. But this is really the itch that needs scratching, that T-square involving Venus in Leo, and Uranus in Taurus, and Saturn in Aquarius. This is what I alluded to when I said you might not be in agreement with everybody, or there may be differences in taste or opinion. However, we still need each other. People still need other people in order to progress toward the future. And if there is something bigger than individual tastes and the bickering that can go on over things that are actually rather petty and the larger issues can be addressed, then there's plenty of opportunity with the grand trine involving Mars in social community-oriented Gemini, and Mercury in relationship-oriented Libra, and Pluto in constructive Capricorn, to actually come to an agreement, be in harmony, and come up with a plan that is going to work toward betterment for everybody. We also have Mercury in that opposition to Jupiter, and there could be worse oppositions, definitely. That Venus-Saturn opposition is definitely a bit more uncomfortable because it also tags Uranus here. But the Mercury-Jupiter, this is where you have to seek the compromise, or perhaps rein in your own desires in terms of, and expectations in terms of what you hope to gain from a relationship or a situation, because you have to consider the needs of other people as well, or other people might have their own thing that they wish to get out of something. So the question of selfish versus selfless can come up under that Virgo new moon, particularly while we have Mercury in relationship-minded Libra opposing Jupiter in self-aware Aries. Then we also have Mercury in opposition to Neptune, and that can feel a lot like a Mercury retrograde. In fact, we are soon approaching a Mercury retrograde time period. I think it starts somewhere around the 10th. Let me double check that. So, yes, on the 10th of September, Mercury goes into retrograde, and it comes out of retrograde somewhere between the 1st and the 2nd of October. I would say make hay while the sun shines and get the most done that you possibly can if you are initiating new things between now and the 10th of September, that your best shot at seeing things move quickly for you is going to be in that first week of September. After that, it may slow down a little bit, or you may get caught back up in the details of things. Make sure you go over your details now and the preparation required in order to move forward before you actually launch something, because there may be some adjustment that needs to be made. There may be mistakes that have to be addressed. As I mentioned, we have Mercury making an opposition to Neptune retrograde, and whenever Mercury is in a challenging aspect with Neptune, it can feel a lot like Mercury retrograde. There can be some illusion, deception, lack of clarity, miscommunication, things not being quite what they seem. And sometimes it's on us because we weren't paying attention, or we were believing what we wanted to believe, hearing what we wanted to hear, seeing somebody in the light of how we want to see them rather than how they really are. Saturn over here can be quite a reality check planet, but it's busy with Venus and Uranus there, and I think that's more of a frustration and tension pattern that may tie into money, work, our resources, and what we really desire and want to have. On the romantic level, it isn't the best time right now for relationships because there can be a lack of clarity or good communication, and there also can be the feeling that there's a lot of work involved, or perhaps you're expecting somebody else to work harder or try harder and they are not. Neptune can be relationship oriented because it's a planet of longing, beauty, idealism, romanticism, and Venus, pleasures, desires, and enjoying those things with others. And both these planets have some challenge in the oppositions. A Venus-Saturn opposition can mean that love is challenging right now, that it is hard to do the work of relating, or perhaps to have your desires met. And then we have that opposition of Mercury in a relationship-oriented sign opposing Neptune in Pisces. And if your vision or dream is too over the top or not practical, then you're probably going to find out why, or it might just not work out if you're not attending to doing the work of trying to make it work out. Nothing comes tied up in a neat package right now, despite the fact that we have a grand trine and we have a bunch of other supportive sextiles and a trine going on that can indicate that yes, maybe. There's a good yes, maybe here with Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus in Capricorn, Pisces, and Taurus. that if you are persistent and if you have enough faith and determination, that something good can come about. We have the same type of energy in that grand trine. If you think something, follow through with the action and stay determined, something good can come about, but you still have to jump through the hoops or do the work that's required while we have this T-square and the oppositions and this other square here with the new moon and Mars in Gemini. And paying attention may be an important thing, that you might have good plans and ideas and a really nice dream or vision of what you would like to have happening, but you still have to follow through on that idea and on your feelings and take the action, and then you have to persist. You have to continue to show up and potentially do the same thing day after day, work at it until you achieve the success. So that's what's going on in the sky at the moment. Some favorable things and then some challenging things. Of course, Venus is going to move on into Virgo in about 10 days. Mercury has just started out here in Libra. I have the feeling as we approach that Mercury retrograde, we will go into a time period of seeing where our mistakes are, or seeing where we do need to refine things, or perhaps become more logical and practical in order to work things out. And perhaps the how of things will also fall into place. There is some resistance here toward putting something new into action. And we also have had this resistance of Saturn to Uranus for some time. So it's not anything that we haven't already felt. You've already felt some of this frustration or resistance to new things and a fear of letting go of what you might already have as you look at an unknown future, or maybe having to put resources on the line in order to make a change. But ultimately, this new moon can show you where are the flaws in your plan, or what steps do you need to take in order to make something work. The facilitating and networking energy of the Virgo new moon is particularly strong and can be very helpful. So let's take a look at the Sabian symbol for the 4 degrees 4 minutes, and we would round up to 5 degrees. Interestingly, I also feel like there can be some influence, because it's so very close to 4 degrees, of the previous cycle. And they're both slightly different. Virgo, 5 degrees, a man becoming aware of nature spirits and normally unseen spiritual agencies. Keynote, the opening of new levels of consciousness. In the first of this sequence of 5 symbols, we saw the individual seeking to bring out of everyday contacts a consciousness of significant form and meaning. Now, as the sequence ends, a further stage of realization is shown in its initial and relatively primitive character. The consciousness is gradually reaching beyond physical characteristics and becoming aware of energy processes, i.e., of the dynamism of forces which externalize themselves as life forms. This is the last stage of the 31st fivefold sequence of phases of the cyclic process of consciousness. The mind in its objectivizing and analytical character always tends to give name and form, nama and rupa in Sanskrit, to that which it contacts as energy process. It images forth energy or feeling, relating it to more or less familiar sense experience. We call this imagination. Well, we have 2 quite imaginative signs interacting today, Virgo and Gemini, and even Neptune in Pisces is extremely imaginative and We've got plenty of imagination and potential at play right now. It is very dependent upon your ability to, I guess, know that it can become real and to do the work of making it show up. That you can't just sit and see a picture in your head of how things should be. That I feel you also have to follow through and do whatever steps you can toward achieving that picture or that imagination. And then if we go back to 4 degrees, black and white children playing together happily, the overcoming of socio-cultural prejudices, freedom from all the forms, biases, and idiosyncrasies of the particular culture and class in which one has been born and educated is a sine qua non of the consciousness truly on the path. The ideal of universal brotherhood underlies all great spiritual teachings, for they all are like branches of the one tree, man in his divine state. This does not mean that there are no racial differences, but rather that these differences have a functional value in terms of the whole organism of man and of the planet Earth. At this 4th stage, the basic technique which applies to all truly spiritual progress is clearly stated. Every human being should be seen, approached, and warmly met as a child of God, or in less religious terms, as an exemplar of man. Such a status gives to every social and interpersonal group the character of a brotherhood. Well, there's a lot of deep stuff in there, and I feel like society is very affected right now by this T-square that's going on, and it's easy to become distracted and polarized, and it's more important to look at the greater goal of what do humans need, what does the earth need, what do people need in order to progress and be safe, secure, be fed, be healthy, be happy, and that we have to not isolate individuals in terms of rejection, limitations, ostracizing, and that it has to be communal. We're having to look toward the community as a whole and looking toward humanity on this planet and doing something on a practical level to ensure that that continues. Our energy sources may be up for review with this Saturn and Uranus square that we've had going on for some time. As long as Pluto is still hanging out in Capricorn, though, I feel like everybody's going to be squeezing the last drops out of what already is when it comes to things like coal and oil, and that money and large corporations are still very much determining how things are going to go in the world. And sometimes it does take people coming together and saying something is intolerable or that they demand change in order for change to occur. In the spring, when Pluto moves into Aquarius, we'll see what happens at that time. But until now, I think it's up to individuals to set aside differences and to look more at the similarities or the common needs as well as common ground and use that as they look toward the future. So that's it for today, and in 2 weeks' time we will be moving toward a full moon, and that is going to be in, let's see when that full moon's occurring, the 10th of September at 17 degrees of Pisces. Enjoy this new moon. Straighten out closets. Look over other things in your life that might need some cleaning out, organizing, and prepare for whatever you're stepping into in terms of the future. get ready for Mercury retrograde in advance. Maybe get your vehicle looked at this week. Anyway, take care, stay safe, and I will be here in 2 weeks.